welcome back. You want to do Dahlin here or 6? Which is like, how much time do you need?
Well, I mean, I could start here, and if it ends, then we do whatever we want at 6 or keep going. A variety of things. First of all, I would die in here if at some point tomorrow night on the TNT pregame show, which the person who started this whole thing, Paul Bissonnette, is a member of that show on TNT, and it's a TNT game. It would absolutely blow my mind if they don't spend 5 minutes with Kevyn Adams tomorrow on that show.
If they don't.
It would blow my mind if they don't. I think he absolutely is a lock to be on that show for a few minutes just to sort of air it out, hash it out. Like I've talked to Rasmus. He's whatever extent they feel they need to put the fire out, enough that like 2 minutes after Dalin denied it, like there's the Sabres social media to make sure that he's happy here. Like, holy cow. Oh. Just let it pass. We'll deal with it out here. Like, you don't need to like dive in there with that at this point, but whatever. I just think Adams, they'll feel like they want to get Adams on there. I'd love the idea of Dalin, on the bench there during warm-ups talking to them, but I can't imagine that happening. With how Dahlin handled the queries about what Bissonnette said on a podcast today.
Which was that he flatly denied saying anything.
Yes. And to me, like, I know, who really knows? I don't know. And I don't know what Bissonnette was told or by whom, obviously. But Dahlin, the way that whole thing went, like, even the sound clips, it's one of these things that if you really want to weigh in on it and be informed, I would like watch the whole transaction, because he's asked about it and it has to be clarified to him that the person asking the question, I think it's Matt Beauvais from Channel 7, and the It's Always Game Day podcast in Buffalo with Sal, says he's talking about you. Like, Dahlin doesn't know for sure. He needs it to be clarified by the person asking the question. Like, who's he talking about that wants out? You. Like, oh. That, to me, is not a put-on whatsoever. Like, it looks very honest to me, and, like, surprise. Like, Dahlin's, no. That's not, it doesn't look like a rehearsed denial. Like, this is coming. I got to be ready to answer these questions, that kind of thing. It looked genuine to me. So, we'll see where that ends up. But I can't imagine Dahlin being interviewed by Paul Bissonnette after that. But I think Adams, again, I think he'll put some time in trying to put the fire out and quash it. And, I don't know what Biz will do, if he'll push back on it or if it'll be awkward or what, but just book it. I can't believe Kevyn Adams won't be on that show tomorrow at some point. I don't even know how long that show might be. An hour.
Do they normally have managers on?
Well, they certainly, yes. I've seen Steve Yzerman on that show. I've seen lots of people on that show. Okay. So I would think that they would make that happen tomorrow. Okay. As for the like the big picture, I think it's tricky because I think you want Dahlin to be mad. Right? I love the Sabres. I love hockey. I want them to be good. I believe he does too. So, yeah, we're mad. I want him to be mad. Because what's it say if he's not? Like, if he's not fed up with all the losing, what are you? You're collecting a check and you're just sort of hanging out. So I'd want him to be pushing. I don't want him to leave. I don't want him to put the Sabres in a position where they have to do something with him because he's an excellent player. But he should absolutely be pushing back at anyone that matters over there because he's great. And sure, he's not perfect. He's taken some dopey penalties and he's done some stuff in games this year that has hurt the team. But on balance, I mean, oh my gosh.
He's elite.
He is fantastic. So I want him to be mad, but I don't want him to ever leave. And that's where it gets dicey, Like, it's entirely believable that he could have said he wants to leave, but I believe his denial today.
There's a lot of room in the middle. If it's there was an if come on the report. If things don't change quickly,
right?
Then. So the player can say, I didn't say I wanted out, because that's not even what's being reported exactly. It's, I want action. And I want him to feel that way too. I mean, we've talked about him a lot lately, and I kind of went into this last week at one point. Imagine being him. How would you feel? One guy called up and talked about how amazing he was, better than McCarr. Remember that?
Yeah.
And, okay, slow down. But a guy that level of athlete and competitor in this situation, how could he not just be whatever this expression is, just like fed up, you might have said. How could he not be? You want him to be. And then what happens, though? Is Terry Pegula going to start suddenly spending to the cap? No, right? I mean, he could. That's what it's going to take. It's not losing as much as it is commitment, probably. We are losing because, in part, at least, of a lack of commitment from the organization. And, then a guy like Dahlin, just like with Jack, can go, why am I here? A guy on that level plays for legacy, plays for the Hall of Fame, plays for cups. This guy is that good. And if he spends 15 years just sort of floundering around for the Sabres, who cares? What's that worth? It's a lot of money, but it's not worth anything in terms of his, legacy as a player. He's in his 8th year, right?
I was just going to say, how many years into it are we?
7 or 8.
It's the 18 draft, right?
7 or 8. He's 24.
Holy cow.
But still, he's been here a long time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame him for any of what's being alleged. I wouldn't blame him for any of it. Let's go. And if it puts the Sabres in a bind, well, we've been there before. That's happened before. What's new? 803-0550, Mike Schopp and the Bull. We were talking about the Dalin report a few minutes ago. You heard Dalin there say, yeah, no. I do again want to say that I think there's some room in the middle here between a threat, which is kind of what that is made to sound like. And here's Dalin saying, I didn't even use the word leave. Is he talking to people in the organization or even teammates? That comes from somewhere. I don't know this guy or care about him at all, Bissonnette. But it's just not the kind of thing you do from nowhere, Right. So I don't know. I don't want to assume it's true or false or anything. But, those things, how it happens sometimes. Somebody hears a thing and then maybe doesn't know the best way to articulate it. And it gets to be something else, and then now the player's like, what?
Yeah. It's not like I did watch the clip from the podcast that is set this all off because I thought I want to see exactly what was said, right? And he just used he said he's Gonzo if things don't get better.
Oh, I love Gonzo.
He'd be Gonzo, and so I don't know. It's not, he's got he's got to have a quote, right? It's being aggregated into Dalin says he will leave if the team doesn't improve and the GM doesn't do enough things to make him believe the team is going to improve. And I don't know. Wouldn't you assume, if you and I were, you have brought it up. I don't even know, going back even into last year. And I have almost curled up in a ball. Emotionally, not actually physically on the floor in a ball when you bring it up. But emotionally, I don't even want to look at it.
Trading him.
Him getting to the point where he does hold their feet to the fire. It's I don't want to do this anymore. I don't even want to contemplate that reality ever being the case. Because it's just so much of that is our lives as Sabres fans has been stuff like that. Going back
how far do you want to go back? 30 years?
It's all there. So, and that's a lot of different managers and 3 different owners or 4 even, whatever.
McGillney.
It's a lot of people.
How about?
Right. So when it comes up, I think, oh God, no. But of course, is it realistic? Is it something that you would ponder as a fan? I mean, I think we rush to it here because of the history, but that's what makes it plausible to me. Again, I believe Dahlin's denial. He sounded genuinely, to me, surprised that he was being accused of having said something like that when he was confronted with it today after practice. I don't have to be right about any of that, but that's my read sitting here today. But is it not using the word leave. What are you talking about, and what sort of idea, what do you leave your GM with after you have that conversation? That you're going to be fine if another few years go by and nothing changes? Of course not. And nor should Adams settle for that. Like, you just the whole thing. It's entirely believable that you could end up there, and I don't know. I just don't know that today signifies like the starting gate of that process really at all. But it could. At some point, a guy like him, Dahlin, could get bothered enough by what's going on here and the inaction and the organization's reputation within the league and all of it. It's like, yeah, I'm going to be 30 one day. Like, what are we doing?
Imagine turning 30.
Yeah, I know.
What's that like?
Being worried about it.
Oh.